Hello guys, so today I am going to show you how to make a nice explosion with fire and smoke in FumeFX 3ds Max. So this is how the final render of the explosion is gonna look. So let's look at how to make the explosion. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to go ahead and make a particle system. We can go on graph editor and particle view to do that, or press the 6 button directly. Let's create a new particle system, a standard flow, and as we can see we have a particle system created here. If I scroll through, we can see particles are falling out. Now what I want to do is first let's delete the shapes and let us reverse this because we want the particles to come up instead of going down, and let's add a bit of divergence. So when the particles come, they're diverging, and let's sort of increase the divergence, but let's make it about 60. And now I don't want particles to be continuously emitting, so I will stop the emission after frame 1, and let's make the amount 500. Let's see what is happening. We have a nice blast, and now we need to delete the particles after some time. So what I'm gonna do is add a delete node. What this delete node will do is delete the particles by the age of the particles. So let's make it about 8 with a variation of say 3. So as you can see, after this frame, about from here our particles are being destroyed. I think let's destroy it a bit earlier. Let's make it about 7. Yeah, that seems good. Yeah, much better. Now the next thing we want to do is go ahead and make our FumeFX container. We can go ahead and make our container. Let us hit here. Let's make it an even number, 150 by say 120. Let's open our settings tab. Now what we want to do is go on particles. Let's make a particle source and add this particle source onto our FumeFX. Let's have a very basic sim. Okay, so let's enable GPU viewport display, and let's see what we have here. So we have the fire and we have a little bit of smoke. Now let's work on this. First, what we have to do is we need to increase our radius. Now what this will do is, if you see our particles here, our radius is quite small. That is why our fire is appearing as blobs. We don't want that, so we can go ahead and increase our radius to say 5. Let's try and sim it. Yep, see, we get an explosion there, something sort of an explosion, and it's going and smoke is being emitted. As you can see, we're already getting a really nice effect. And what I want to do is, since we're working with a small FumeFX container, let's decrease our divergence a bit. Let's make it about 45, and let's reduce our speed. Let's make it half. So we have our particles going here, and we can have a smoke in a small area for the purpose of this tutorial. So let me go and sim it again. So we have an explosion, and yep, the explosion is billowing into our smoke. So what we can do is, let's see our grid. Yep, this seems decent. I can probably reduce the height a bit. So we would be we would be rendering it a bit faster. Yep, it seems decent. The next thing I want to do is let us work on our sim. Let us first reduce our spacing. Let's make it 1. Let us work on our advection stride. Let's probably reduce it down a bit to about 0.8. Let's turn on cubic interpolation. This way we get more detail around the edges. Now the advection stride, it works a lot with our vorticity. Our vorticity at 0.9 seems quite decent. We do not need to change that. We can probably increase our time scale to about 1.5. What this does is it's more like say it affects the entire fume effect settings, and it will go about say 1.5 times faster than what it previously was. Let's add turbulence. Let us reduce the scale, increase the detail level. Probably about 7 seems decent, and let's decrease this to about 0.2 and increase our small details amount to 0.6. And now let's add a bit of turbulence in this axis, which is the x-axis. Let's make it about say 1, and let's add turbulence in the z-axis. Now let's sim it and see what we get. So we have the fire. Now one problem that I see right away is we have our smoke on the edges of the fire. It's more like covering the fire, which we do not want in this. So what I want to do is first let's try and make this add to the voxel and see what kind of effect we get from this. No, it looks quite same. So what I'm going to do is probably get this down to about 0.5, and what I'm going to do is right down here we have fire creates smoke. This means that smoke will be emitted from the burning fire. We can increase our smoke density to say about 10, and we can make this temperature based to say about 40. Let's look at our result now. You can see we have much more smoke than what we previously had, but it's still not looking good. What we have to do is increase our burn rate, which is down here. What I got to do is first let us increase this to 15. Let me also add this to -c. So what this will do is we have the explosion interacting with the ground, so it looks more natural. Now what I want to do is let us check out our fire burn rate. So what I can do is I can key this. Say in the start I want it to go and burn at about 40, and slowly I want it to reduce to about say 5. Right, now let's see what we get. Yep, it's quite a nice effect. Now you can see that the explosion is quite above the ground, which we don't want. So what we're gonna do is we will change the temperature buoyancy. What this will do is affect the buoyancy of both the smoke and the fire. So we're gonna let's reduce it down and see what happens. Nope, not a lot. Let's increase it to about 3 and let's see what happens. Nope, this is just too much. Let's just work with about 0.5. We have it closer to the ground. So what we're gonna do now is let's reduce it further to about say 0.25. Let's see what we get from here. It's much closer to the ground, more like the effect we want. Let's render this and see what we get. Yep. Let us see what is up with our particles. So our particles are going a bit too up. We want it to go in this direction. So what we are going to do is let's change this to about 90. So we have it more in this direction. Also we want it closer to the ground, right? So it's going like this and boom. So what I am going to do is let's have a test run here. Yep, closer to what we want. As you can see, it's taking much more time to sim. So we have quite a lot of fire here. I'm going to go ahead and reduce down our radius. Let's make it about 4. First, let me render this and see how we got. Yep, it looks decent. I think we need to reduce the radius even more. It seems quite big. About 3, let's see. Our fire was just too much. Yep, this looks much better. Let's render this. Yeah, probably somewhere around 3.5. We can now what we can do is we have already gone ahead and changed stuff here. What I can do is let's further sim it to see how our smoke is coming out and how our fire is actually going out. Okay. So you can see that something is happening there which we quite don't like. I think it's because of our turbulence there. What I'm going to do is let's reduce down our turbulence and let's see what we get. So you can see that we don't have much smoke. We have the smoke rising in the middle, which we don't want. We want the fire create smoke to be much more. What I'm going to do is let's just go ahead and disable this. So I think we need a much higher burn rate. Our fire is just inside here for too long. So what I'm gonna do is go here and let's increase our burn rate. Let's make it about 60. Let's submit now and see what we get. Nope, it's still too much. I'm gonna go on my particle view. Let's see if we can probably increase our particle count to say about 1000, so we get a bit more detailing. Our particulate seems fine. What I'm gonna do is let's make this about 75, and right here let's about 60 seems good. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not auto that. 60 and 80 and 25. Let's see what we get from this. So we have the fire. And you can see we're getting some type of a smoke which we don't quite like. Let's add more turbulence. I don't want it to be keyframed. So let's see what we get from this. Yep, this seems much better than what we previously had. Let me sim it and let's see what kind of an effect we get after the fire goes out. So our turbulence is too much at this point. We don't want so much turbulence. I think we'll have to keyframe it. Probably out here we need it to be 0. And let's make it 1 here. So we have it going from 1 to 0 out here. So we'll have a nice clean smoke when it's coming out of the fire. The next thing we can do is play with our render tab. Let us go ahead and make our smoke much darker. We can play around with our fire color. What we can do is go ahead, right click and go on key mode, and if we double click we can add our own keys to it. So let's get a bit more detailing inside it. Okay. So what I did was let me go ahead and make it a keyless mode again, and make it a key mode. There is a key here. So what we can do is let's add a bit more of the blacks in the detail. Yeah, that looks good. Yep. So let me go ahead, add one more key here. Let's get it a bit light, and let me get a bit of the reddish tone right here. Yep, this looks good. Now what I'm gonna do is let's add a few lights to our scene. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a few lights. Let's add a target direct light. We can move the target to sort of come here. Yep. And let me just get a few settings. We turn on shadows, go on ray trace shadows, and we turn on atmosphere shadows. Now what we can also do is change a bit of the color. We can make it slightly orangish, and I can duplicate it, make a copy, and get one right here. Now what I need to do is increase the beam. So let's make it about 100. Same goes for this. And now what we got to do is incorporate these lights in our fume effects. So I'm going to go ahead and add both of these lights. And also you got to make sure that cast shadows and receive shadows are on. Yeah, we're getting a nice color to the fire, a really deep orangish and red in there. We probably have the smoke coming in too later. We still need to change our burn rate. It's back to 30. So I thought we had changed that. Let's make it 60 again, and back to about, let's make it about 15, right? Let's see what we get from this. We have a nice explosion, and our smoke is being created. Now the problem which is happening is our smoke isn't really going up. And what is this? So our light intensity is a bit too much. We can go ahead on illumination and also turn on multiple scattering. We can increase our step size. What I'm going to do is reduce our light intensity. Let's make it about 0.4. And the other one, let's make it 0.6. Now if I go ahead and render it, let's see what we get. We have our smoke out here, and we can see that we have our smoke on one part and our fire on one part. It is coming out really uneven. So our smoke is being shown here. When I go ahead and render it, we have our fire. right here, and it's turning into the smoke. What we have to do is, in our sim tab, let's change this to about 40. Let's make it 50. Let us also change a few other settings. I think is our temperature buoyancy is just too low. Let's change it and let's see what we get from this. As you can see, we've now got the fire rising up nicely, which is turning into our smoke. Now, as you can see, our smoke is a bit whitish. It did not change its color properly. Let's go ahead and do this again. We want it to be dark, obviously. We have our fire right here. Let us decrease its opacity a bit, probably increase the color to about 0.8 and increase our step size to about 100, and let's see what we get. Let me pause right here. Okay. And you can see we have a much better result right off. We have the fire turning into the smoke. And we can see that the smoke is rising. If you want the smoke to just go away, you can change the dissipation settings and you will have to increase the dissipation by a lot. So yeah, this looks nice. We can probably make our ambient color even darker. Let's now make it full black. A hint of gray there. It look much better. Yeah. And what we can do is we can increase our shadow fall off to say about 2. That way we'll get a bit more detailing towards these areas. The light is still a bit too much. Let me decrease it to about 0.3 here and about 0.2 here. Yeah, and let's see what we get. Yep, much better. What I am going to do next is let us test out a few things in this. We can increase or decrease our vorticity. We can probably make it about 0.95. We have our turbulence, which we have not put yet. I think there was a problem when I was keyframing it. For some reason it didn't turn up. Let's make it 1.1. And about here, let's make it 0 and 0. Yep. Let's turn on our auto key. You can see that our turbulence values are changing. We'll have much more detailing on the edges of the smoke during the explosion. We want it to go a bit crazy during the first 15 frames and then just rise naturally. As you can see, that is what is happening. It's looking really nice. And you can see clearly right off we have a really nice explosion right here. Now you can go ahead and test out a few other things, maybe just play around with the burn rate or smoke density. The turbulence will make a huge difference, and of course our spacing, if we reduce our spacing down to about say 0.7, it will change the way our smoke looks, but the feel of it will be quite similar to what we had. Obviously, as you can see, the sim is going to take much longer because it's going to add more detail and more computations are required. But yep, there will be more detailing, so there's that. Let's go ahead and test render a frame of this. Yeah, it looks quite nice. We can probably go further in, and let's get a render here. Now you can see we've got really nice detail. Let's have a look at how our smoke is gonna look. So our fire is actually burning for too long, I feel. Let me go on my auto keyframe. Let's go on the 15th frame, and we can probably increase this to about 30. I want the fire to go away much faster than what it is now. Let me just increase our spacing back to about 1.2 so we get a faster sim. If you want the smoke to rise faster, we can increase the temperature buoyancy also. We can probably just make it about 0.82. Seems fair. Let's have a look at how it looks. We have a really nice smoke. So this is it for this tutorial. I hope you really enjoyed this and learned something out of it. Do give a like and a comment down below, and I'll be leaving this project file in the description down below, so be sure to have a look at that too. Thank you.